Good evening and welcome to the November 8th, 2022 Development Review Commission hearing. The Development Review Commission is created to hold public meetings and hearings to provide analysis and recommendations to the City Council regarding general land use policies and applications where the Commission has recommendatory power and to render final decisions on specified applications where the Commission has final decision-making power, including but not limited to all aspects of a proposed and future development. The Development Review Commission recognizes that the creation of a desirable environment throughout the city for residents, businesses, and industry is a prime requisite for the interdependence of land values, aesthetics, and good site planning by promoting harmonious, safe, attractive, and compatible development that is therefore considered to be in the best interests of public health, safety, and general welfare. Any person aggrieved by a final decision of the Development Review Commission may file an appeal to the City Council within 14 calendar days after the Development Review Commission has rendered its decision. Development Review Commission recommendations to the City Council are not final decisions. With us this evening, here on the Commission, we have alternate Robert Miller, Vice Chair Andrew Johnson. I'm Chairman Mike DiDomenico, Commissioners Barbara Lloyd, Linda Spears, and alternate Commissioner Charles Redman. With us from staff in the audience and here at the desk, Jeff Temulevich, Ryan Levesque, Steve Abrahamson, Saparna Dasgupta, Lee Jimenez, Lily Drosos, Joanna Berry, and Eddie Garcia. During the public hearing, if there are any items that you wish to be heard on, we'd appreciate it if you would, and you don't need to wait till the case is called, you can do it right now. If you wish to be heard, which means coming up and speaking at the dais, fill out one of these white cards. You can get them in the back of the room or up here. Joanna has a stack of them. If you don't wish to come up and speak publicly, but you have comments that you want to be read into the record, you can also fill out one of these cards, write your comments on here, and check the little box that said, read them for me, and we'll be happy to do that. Tonight, in our study session, we went through the agenda, and it is our intention to have two items tonight be voted on in a single vote as part of what we call our consent agenda. The intent of the consent agenda is to take one single motion and one single vote to approve, and in this case, it's items 1 and 2 on tonight's agenda. That's the annual report, and item number 2, the use permit request for the Salim residents. Does anyone here in the audience, have you appeared or are you here to be heard or have any questions on either of those two items? Okay, seeing none, we're going to leave those on our consent agenda. Commissioners, I would entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
It's been moved by Commissioner Miller and seconded by Vice Chair. Okay. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Motion carries 6-0. Item number 3 on the agenda has been withdrawn, and that brings us to item number 4 that we will hear. This is a request for a zoning map amendment. The case is commonly known as the Caliendo Residence, 1100 East Knox Road. We'll start off with the applicant if you want to come up and give us a presentation, and then we'll follow that up with staff.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Brian Greathouse with the law firm Birch & Cracchiolo. For your record, our address is 1850 North Central Avenue. Here tonight representing the Caliendos. Michelle Caliendo is up on the top there. She is a little bit ill right now, so she's going to sit up there. And Ryan Gilbert, our land surveyor, is also here because this is a rezoning case, and it's also an approval for a pre-plat, preliminary development plan. Thank you. So the subject site is located east of Rural Road, and it's located north of Knox Road. north of the Corona High School parking lot. Let me zoom in a little here. The Caliendos own what's called Lot 1, which is on the north here, and the Flores bought Lot 2 from the Caliendos, and as part of that sale, the Caliendos want to reacquire the site as labeled on here for an expansion of their backyard. They've told me they would like to have a bigger backyard for their dogs to run around and play. So the overall acreage of that site area is 0.172 acres. So it's essentially, I think of it as a lot line adjustment rather than a total rezoning case, because the uses are going to stay the same. They're both going to be single-family homes. They're both going to be single-family lots. In order to do this, what I call a lot line adjustment is the site, which is zoned AG today, needs to be rezoned R115 to match what the Caliendos zoning is on their property today. This is just a map showing what the existing zoning is and what the proposed zoning is. Overall, this is about 7,475 square feet. It's to allow dogs and kids to run around in the backyard. We know that we have 11 statements of support for the rezoning case. We know we have one statement of support that's conditioned on an extra stipulation that a perimeter wall be erected in between the new lots on the new lot line. And my client would like to ask the commission not to approve the rezoning case with that stipulation for the following reasons. There's no wall that exists between the properties today. There's no wall required by the Tempe Zoning and Development Code. The properties are outside of the Las Estadas, the plat areas for both Las Estadas 1 and Las Estadas 2, so it's not a part of the HOA. It's not a part of the CC&Rs or any other private restrictions. There's perimeter walls around Las Estadas with vehicle gates, pedestrian gates, perimeter walls. There's no need for this, what we think is excessive regulation. The Caliendos and the Floreses, we believe, can work out what barrier goes between that property line. They're going to have dogs running back there, so they need a barrier wall. And they also don't want trespassers. They don't want people walking through the Flores lot. They don't want people walking through the Caliendos lot. So the interest between the Caliendos, the Flores, and Mr. Fargostein, who you'll hear from in a minute, they're all aligned, and that's why we think that would be a little excessive regulation to restrict the private property rights of two owners to install a wall in between the lots. With that, I'd ask to see if you have any questions, and we'd request your recommendation of approval and the approval of the pre-plat. Thank you.
So my understanding is it's the intention of the Caliendos and the Flores ownership group, whoever that may be, to erect along the property line, the new property line, a barrier that would prevent vehicular traffic, would prevent persons or animals to cross the property line, but it may not be a block wall. It may be something that both visually doesn't block sight lines, it doesn't stop water from passing.
That's
that kind
right.
of thing.
That's right. Some people like a 6-foot, 8-inch wide CMU block wall. Some people don't. Some people like white vinyl fencing. Some people don't. Some people like view fencing. Others don't. And we've also heard from the neighbor on the other side, the west side of the site, who was concerned that SRP wouldn't maintain their access to a transformer on the Caliendos property, and that's a shared transformer that SRP has an easement to. So that easement needs to be honored. It can't be blocked off with a wall all the way down. There's ways to do that with a gate, and then if you lock the gate, you have to get a certain lock that SRP has the key to. So it's a rather complex process, and we just don't think the stipulation is needed in this case.
At one point in time, the Caliendos owned both lots. Is that true?
That's true.
And recently, in June, sold the larger Knox property. At any point in time, was there ever a solid CMU block wall separating those two properties that was later removed?
I am not sure. Let me go ask my client one moment to answer that correctly.
Sure.
could speak.
Sure. I bet you already know the answer, don't you?
I have looked at, Chair DiDomenico, members of the commission, I did look at historic aerials. I did look at one around year 2000, and there was a perimeter wall along the south of the existing Lot 1 proposed.
But you can't really, from an aerial, tell if it's a block wall or,
You could just see
Sure.
a shadow of the sun casted on, which appears to be a solid block wall, but I can't say
so
for
at some
certain.
point in time, a long time ago, under someone's ownership of the two lots, there was some sort of barrier there that's now no longer there.
Yeah, and that's what I've seen in the historic aerials.
Okay.
Thanks, Lee. My client told me that there was one there approximately 12 years ago.
Okay. And I'm guessing that they've probably got some plan of what kind of a wall they'd like to, the two property owners put up between the two properties?
I've asked them, and
I'm guessing it's not
not a
chain
solid
link
plan.
and it's not chain link and razor wire. It's not something unattractive. It's going to be something with a residential feel.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, that's the plan. All right, very good. Other questions from the commission? Thank you. Sit tight. I imagine there'll probably be other questions that may come up.
Thank you.
Lee, do you want to add anything else to the?
If I could just take the opportunity to just state some facts about the case. So good evening. My name is Lee Jimenez. I'm a senior planner with the Community Development Department. So the Collier residence, Mr. Grayhouse explained what the location of it. It's the current the current size of the lot is 2.2 acres, 2.22 acres, excuse me. As Mr. Grayhouse explained, the parcel was recently purchased by Erica Flores, and they do intend to purchase some of the lot area, the original lot, to add on to the north lot. So there's a site. South lot is zoned AG. The north lot is R115. And then just a little correction on the report. In the table next to the map, I just wanted to correct that I transposed the ownership. So Lot 1 should be the Caliendos, and Lot 2 to the south should be labeled Ms. Flores. So I'll make sure that that is corrected and addressed in the council report as well. But tonight's hearing, the request is for the zoning map amendment from AG to R115 for that section of the site in question. And then, so the applicant is requesting a recommendation for the zoning map amendment, and then requesting to take action on the preliminary plat, which is basically consisting of a two-lot subdivision where you have Lot 1 and 2, and then Lot 1 would be accepting additional area from Lot 2. This just highlights the area that's the rezone is to be taking place in. Same map that Mr. Grayhouse had up on the screen. And then this is the proposed plat that identifies what the final outcome of the subdivision consisting of these two lots will look like at the end of it all. So through the neighborhood meeting process, or the neighborhood outreach process, excuse me, the applicant held a public outreach for comments with a period that began on September 7th through September 23rd, where neighbors were instructed to provide feedback either by email or phone, and to voice their concerns. And during that neighborhood meeting process, or that period, the applicant received 4 comments. 3 of the neighbors wanted to know more information about the request, and then one neighbor requested some clarification on several items, and that was Mr. Fargostein. And then during the public notification process, as we mentioned, we received 12 public comments, 11 were in support. 1 is a neutral comment, and that is Mr. Fargostein's, in which he is requesting that the perimeter wall be installed as a part of a condition of approval for the rezone. So staff is recommending approval of the rezone, and then recommending approval of the preliminary plat as well. There's no out of ordinary or non-standard conditions of approval tied to the rezone. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Do you know if the applicant's in agreement with the conditions of approval as drafted?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a thumb up. Okay.
Yeah, it's just the waiver, the condition requiring the waiver of rights and remedies.
Okay. Gotcha. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one public comment card before me. If anyone else wishes to be heard, get one of these in here shortly. I will now call up Mr. Philip Fargestein. And if you could, just name and city of residence. You don't need to give us.
My name is
detail.
Philip Fargestein. I'm a resident of Los Estados in Tempe, Arizona. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. I understand that Mr. Jimenez has distributed to you a copy of what I submitted to him yesterday, which was my letter and several attachments, and I think the attachments will help understand what our concern is. I'm here on behalf of the board. The board discussed these issues several times, and it was our concern that the wall on the southern and western portions of the new property line needs to be a block wall construction. We've had several discussions with our council, and this is just a disagreement apparently. Yes, a wall's going to go in. We know that, but we think it should be a block wall, and the question is why. In answer to the chairman's questions a few minutes ago, when the development was first built, it had 44 homes that are part of the HOA. It had 6 pre-existing homes that are within the gated community but are not part of the HOA. Lot 1 is not an HOA member. Okay. Back in 2011, the HOA agreed with the Caliendos on their other lot, Lot 140, which is just east of this little triangle, that we would allow them to remove part of their back fence and install a metal slat fence because they now owned all 3 lots and they wanted to be able to enjoy the open air. Half of their backyard is block wall construction, 6 feet tall. Every home in that development, HOA member, non-HOA member, every home has block wall, sidewalls, block wall, rear wall, at least 6 feet tall. That is the norm in the neighborhood. In 2011, sometime after 2011, when we entered into that agreement, the Caliendos did remove the rear or the south wall of Lot 1. Since that's not an HOA member, the HOA was not consulted, had nothing to say about it. We had no authority. That's why we're coming to this commission as having the only authority to protect what we believe is important to our neighborhood. Los Estados, and I don't mean to brag, but Los Estados is a development of 45 plus, closer to 50 homes, $1 million plus homes. Consistency and security are important to all of us. As I mentioned, all homes have block wall construction in their rear walls and their side walls. We are requesting, if you look at my little letter, and the best one to look at is about the third attachment. It's attachment 15, which is the same numbering system used in the original report. I've drawn in pink the way that if you require a block wall, the block wall will be continuous around Los Estados in that corner, consistent with the rest of Los Estados. There was a discussion about the Flores, the people who bought the other land. If you look at attachment 15, all the land surrounding the Flores property are residential homes. All have block wall construction surrounding the Flores property. We don't think because somebody wants to put in a slat fence or a wood fence or any other type of fence, that should be a factor when in fact it's not consistent with either what had been around the Flores property or what is around and in the entire Los Estados Homeowners Association and development. If this is a requirement, and we're requesting this be required as part of the rezoning and replatting, is to make that a 6-foot block wall. It will match all the walls to which it's attached. We tried to address in my letter the issue about the SRP. We've been advised SRP will need access to that transformer, no problem. I've seen it in other fences. They will put in a gate, and our request is that that gate be locked with an SRP-approved lock so SRP can have access anytime they want. We're not opposed to SRP having access to a gate. But if you drive around this community, you will find other communities that have walls, block walls, where SRP has a gate, and they simply go through it. All we've requested concerning SRP is that the gate be the minimum size required by SRP. Lot 145, well, I call it Lot 1 to you, it's Lot 145 to us, is part of the Las Estadas gated community. They get the benefits of the Las Estadas gated community. Access on Warner is vehicle. Access, only one pedestrian access gate in the back is on Knox. Front, we have a vehicle gate and a pedestrian gate on Warner. That's the only access to this neighborhood. And we don't believe that it's inappropriate to require that as part of this expansion of Lot 1/145, to require them to match the rest of the perimeter walls that it will be tying into. There's just no reason for it. To clarify, and I put this in our comments, I guess the form I filled out, we do not oppose or support the decision. The HOA board is impartial when it comes to things like that. But we do have a concern about the safety and security that anything less than a block wall fence consistent with the rest of the perimeter wall will result in. And it will not be consistent with what every homeowner in that neighborhood bought into when they bought a home in that neighborhood. And therefore, we're asking for those that condition, those two conditions on the wall.
Commissioners, questions? I have a question. So you explained it very well. Good understanding of the history of Lot 1 and the Flores property, not being part of Las Estadas. Lot 1 now, or what you refer to as Lot 145, was grandfathered in because there were 6 existing homes that were to the east of what's Las Estadas proper. I expected that there was a reason for wanting block versus any other kind of fence, and block is visually a total barrier, but for security purposes, the other fence types I'm sure can provide the same relevant sense of security for the Las Estadas neighborhood. So and it doesn't appear where this fence would go is visible from anyone else's property other than Flores and Lot 1 Caliendo. It doesn't, the adjacent properties to the east don't see over their wall and know what kind of a wall butts up to theirs on the west side of their property. So what am I missing?
Well, to answer your question, the perimeter walls went in by the developer back in the early 1990s. So all those walls, including the one on the south side of Lot 1, were put in the early 1990s. And when everybody bought their lots and they take a tour of the place, they see what all this perimeter walls was. Now we have homes and sidewalls and everything else. Mm-hmm. Okay, but that was a developer decision. I can tell you that it has given the neighborhood a sense of confidence and comfort that they know they've got 6-foot block walls between them and outside the gated community. I agree. There are other fences. I was in the military. I can describe all sorts of military fences that are probably more secure and will keep out intruders. But I'm talking about consistency and restoring what was there before it was taken out. The fact that we allowed part of the Lot 140 wall to be replaced with slats because all 3 lots were owned at that time, and the fact that at some point they removed the block wall of 145, in our opinion, does not justify allowing them to put in something to border the new lot line, other than a block wall to match the rest of the neighborhood.
Okay. Other questions? Commissioner Lloyd?
Thank you, Chair DiDomenico. My question is actually for the applicant, so I don't know if now is a good time or wait till,
No, we'll finish with public comments, and then we'll go back to the applicant. Any more? No? Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right. Mr. Greathouse, come on back up, or applicant team. I think we have a few more questions. To start with, if there's anything you'd like to respond to that you've heard, you can start that way, and then we'll follow up with any questions we may have.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And I have talked with Phil several times. We've had great conversations. Las Estadas was an infill subdivision that went in where there were a lot of larger lots. So they were kind of like the newer kid on the block who came in and built nice homes, built nice walls around a whole bunch of other nicer, larger lot, rural-style homes. He says that all the homes have block wall construction. Well, the Las Estadas properties are required to. They're regulated. The other properties chose what walls they want. So that's all we're asking for, is allow the Caliendos and the Flores to choose to put in a block wall or choose to put in another type of wall. Like I said before, it's not regulated by the code, and they shouldn't be forced kind of quasi private restrictions on them on what they have to do. Another thing is that you heard Phil say that they had no authority to stop the tear down of the wall 12 years ago. That was right, and I'm unaware of anything that's happened in the last 12 years with police reports or any type of crime that's occurred since that wall was taken down. So those security concerns, there's no facts to support that there should be security concerns. That's all I have to say as an introduction. Happy to answer some additional questions.
Commissioner Lloyd?
okay, I just have two questions. So aside from being regulated, what is the opposition, if any, to actually building a block wall? And two, I saw several letters of support in the package for the rezoning, and that's from neighbors, probably within and without of the association, but people that are directly adjacent to the property that are in support of the rezone. Do those supporting neighbors have an opinion on what the wall structure is made out of?
I believe they're supportive across the board. We're unaware of any direct issue with the condition of the wall. I know Phil said that he had the HOA support, but we haven't seen any meeting minutes and haven't heard any actual official act from the board on that issue. So.
And the first question was, is there any specific opposition to just building a block wall versus not? Like, why is the applicant opposed to building a block wall?
Just the flexibility and the private property rights to be able to do, what you want to do on a piece of property. There's complexities with working with the SRP, where the easement's located. Where does that gate need to go? Is it a blanket easement? Do we have to narrow down the easement to a 5-foot wide easement rather than just easement across the whole property? That's additional work with SRP, who's notoriously non-responsive. More work for Ryan Gilbert to do. They're responsible people. They're going to do the right thing. Like I said before, they want to have dogs play out there. They need some type of barrier. They just want the flexibility,
Okay, thanks.
like any private property owner.
Commissioner Spears?
I just want to make sure I'm looking at this correctly. There is no public access to this property other than what appears to be driveways on either side. Is that correct?
That's right.
So that the wall between, I'm guessing the east side of Lot 1 and Lot 2, that's an existing block wall that goes up to the other adjacent property owners. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair?
Just a clarifying question or two. So Lot 1 or 145 and Lot 2, are either one of those included or part of the HOA?
Neither are part of the HOA. Neither are a part of the final plat for Las Estadas 1 and Las Estadas 2. They're just outlayer parcels that are not a part of that plat. I'm guessing back in 1905, when the property was platted, the developer worked with that property owner to provide them access through the community because they needed access somehow and somewhere, and that was a compromise they worked out. I'm not sure.
So both those houses predate the, okay. And it looks like there's a gate on the drive, is that accurate?
There's a gate on the north end of the driveway on the Caliendo's property.
Okay. And is the new property line, the adjusted property line, completely outside of the HOA?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes, I just have, these are clarifying questions as well. It was stated that there was a block wall prior to, I think, approximately 12 years ago that separated the two properties, and then it was removed. What was the point of removing it? Because you're basically then creating one property.
Yeah, they did own both the properties at one point. They wanted a bigger yard.
Okay, so at one point then, the property extended all the way to the north up to, and I can't see what it is, but there's another property that exists up there on Terrace. Is that correct?
Let me make sure I know, oops, what question I'm answering. So,
Well, you've got, you've got the driveway that extends up to Terrace,
yeah,
and then, which runs between, I think, the HOA properties and what appears to be another very large property to the west of that. And so their original property line extended to that property. Is that correct? At least in part.
yeah, I can't, when it was platted in 1995, I'm not sure. I have the plat with me, it just says unsubdivided on a portion of it.
All right, and this is the Flores, was the property, the Caliendo house that's there now. When was that built? So that predates the development, the HOA as well.
Yeah, the plat was 1995. The replat was a couple years later, and the subdivision, I'm guessing, probably didn't go in until late 90s, maybe even the 2000s, because it takes that long to process improvement plans and build lots and build homes.
Okay, and bear with me for being so,
It's fine.
about this, but so there's a house that's built in 1995 with a block wall there. The block wall is torn down approximately 2010 to create a single property. Now, did the Flores own both of those houses at that time?
The Caliendos own both properties.
And the Caliendos own both properties.
They own both properties. They enjoyed a very large yard for many, many years. And then they decided to sell what we call the Knox property, which is Lot 2, to, not we, the Caliendos decided to sell it to the Floreses. Because of the parcel boundaries that date back many, many years, we couldn't simply do a lot line adjustment without adjusting the zoning, which is why we're here today.
Okay. It's a little bit, the narratives are a little bit confusing when you start reading through them in terms of who owned what when, and then why did we tear this down, and now we're coming back and we don't really want to put another one up.
All right. Other questions?
Wait, Mr. Chairman, sorry,
Go ahead.
I just thought of one other one.
Certainly.
Is there any thought that you know of, or in terms of reasoning why block walls are not necessarily a good idea, that at some point that area may be taken back by the property, the Knox property, basically? That they may want to take it back, in which case then they'd have to knock the wall down again.
And something like that may happen in the future, and we don't foresee it right now, but who knows what changes.
Thank you.
Chairman, we do have one other speaker online.
You do, online? Okay. Do you want,
Thank you.
I can bring it up. Thank you very much. All right. Well, I can't get, if you could call them in, I don't have,
Yeah, Chairman, Mr. Rod Lenz is online.
Hi, this is Rod. Thank you. I did submit some comments earlier today. I just real briefly read through them. We've, my wife and I, for the past 7.5 years, have been the owners of parcel 308-02124 in the Las Estadas HOA, and we border the southeastern portion of the Flores property. In the mailer that was sent out, it was identified as Lot 2 in Exhibit 1. I think, like most of the comments I've heard tonight, we find the Caliendo request to amend the zoning map from AG to R1 through 15 for Lot 1 to be consistent with the dominant zoning of the area, and we fully support it. It doesn't seem like there's much argument in that space. I am a former Las Estadas board member. We oppose any request from the HOA to include any additional requirements concerning the fencing. Primarily in this matter because neither Lot 1 or 2 are members of the HOA, and as such are not subject to jurisdiction. I think that was stated earlier quite clearly, but that's all I really had to say. I thank you for your time.
could you, I just pulled the map up. Can you give us the assessor's parcel number I think you read off for your property?
Yes, 308-02-124. We are going to be the most southern eastern border of the Flores property.
Along Knox, with frontage along Knox. Okay, I see it there. All right, thank you very much for participating. I appreciate you calling in. Do we have anyone else from the public who wishes to be heard? Okay, we're going to close the public comment portion of the meeting. Lee, is there anything else that you've heard that you want to respond to?
Chair DiDomenico, no, I was just going to point out the lot in case we wanted to use the overhead, but just to explain, it's the very southeast lot southeast of the Flores property, which is proposed Lot 2.
Right.
And it's
Attachment 29, Exhibit 1 in the report shows it
okay.
clearly.
I just
Perfect.
wanted to make
Thank you
aware.
very much.
Thank you.
All right. At this point, I would entertain motions. I would encourage discussion. Whatever's the pleasure of the commission. Commissioner Spears.
I would move to approve the request for the rezoning as stated without the condition requiring a block wall. I'm looking
So
for the
as
case
proposed
number.
by staff. Do
Right.
we have a second? It's
I'll
been
second.
moved by Commissioner Spears, seconded by Commissioner Lloyd.
We need to talk about the six, to give the applicant what they want.
Oh, yes, thank you for reminding me. Also, just as a reminder to everyone in attendance or watching, this particular case, it's a zoning map amendment request. The commission is not the final decision-making power. So in our preamble that I read at the beginning of the meeting, there is no appeal of our decision. Our decision will be a recommendation that will be passed on to City Council. City Council will have two public hearings, the second of which they will vote on it in whatever way they see fit. So you will want to follow this case, no matter what our recommendation is. You'll want to follow that case to the City Council to see what happens next or to participate in the process. We have a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And opposed, no one. Now, before we move forward, I should have asked the applicant. This is going to kind of show them the dealer's cards, but I should have asked before we took the vote. Would you like us to proceed with our recommendation to City Council, or would you like to wait for a future hearing where you could have a full panel of 7 members?
This is fine.
You're good with this?
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
good.
Make sure my client's okay with it. I'm okay.
Good, because I wasn't going to let you, go the other direction after I was silly enough to actually call for the vote.
It's always good.
There we go. All right, thank you very much. That concludes the cases that we have on this evening's agenda. We do have one other item of business, and that is in anticipation of our meeting next Tuesday. There is a special meeting that's been called. There is one case to be heard on that agenda. I'm out of town and not available to attend that meeting. As the same, our vice chair will not be able to fill in for me. So what I would suggest we do as a commission tonight, just to hit the ground running at that meeting, is to take recommendations or appoint a temporary chairman to run that meeting. I suggest that we appoint Commissioner Spears to that role. She has past experience running this commission and running these meetings, along with a wealth of other ones. Linda, would you be willing to do that? Are you sticking around? Are you in town for that one? I should ask you that first, but.
Chairman, just from a legal standpoint, because we don't have it on the agenda, I would just say that take it as an announcement, and we
Okay.
will agendize it on the.
Agendize it, deal with it in pre-session.
In pre-session.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so we have a consensus on that, and we'll pass that through to be dealt with.
We will make sure that we put that as a recommendation that came from.
Wonderful. Just so she knows who to blame when she's in the middle of the meeting. Oh, she knows that already. All right, there we go. Staff, do we have any announcements to pass on?
No other announcements, Chairman.
Is there time for people to still run and vote? Oh, look at that, 15 minutes.
Possibly 3 more hours in some areas.
Okay, so there you go. If you forgot that today was election day, where's the closest polling place that you can run to? I don't know. Google it. As the kids say, Google it, right? All right, meeting adjourned.